Welcome to another episode of Cycling Radsport und Ciclisme. Today we have got the mighty Emma Finucane. She is a match sprint world champion on the track. She could have been on the GB endurance team, so you will hear and listen why that's happened. You will also hear about the Track Champions League and how she broke her crank on a bike, which takes some power. She's certainly not someone you want to mess with. Listen, sit back, enjoy, like, subscribe, everything, and yeah, just enjoy listening. Hi, thank you for joining. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I haven't really been up to much today, but yeah, I'm really good.
Good. I mean, it seems like a super easy place to start, but like, how did you even get into cycling? Like, because for me, especially with track riders, I find it weird. Like, everyone's got a road outside their house. They could just
Yeah,
get on the road bike and go, or get on their mountain bike and go. But a
yeah,
track
for sure.
is so different for me. It
It is
feels,
different.
yeah, like how did you get into it all?
So I actually started off on the road. So I'm from Wales. That's where my family live in Carmarthen. So right next to my house there was an outdoor velodrome. And yeah, one day my parents just took me and my sister down to the park, and I started riding around there. Then there was a club there, so me and my sister joined the club, Towie Riders. We did like road, did some cyclocross, did kind of just basically everything. I used to do triathlon, so I used to enjoy
Wow.
that. And yeah, I used to just do bits and bobs. And then when I was 10, the club actually was like, "Oh, you could go up to Newport, which was the nearest track to me,
Hmm.
because you had to be 10 years old to start." So they were like, "Oh, why don't you give it a go and see what it's about?" So my mum and dad would drive me to Newport, me and my sister, which was about an hour and a half, nearly a 2 hour drive. So it wasn't like local.
Yeah.
So we went there and did like some taster sessions. I really enjoyed it because it was different. I just got stuck in like riding without brakes and gears. It was quite cool. And then yeah, I started. That's how I really got into track. So I did come from a road background, but then I went off to the track when I was about 10, but still did road. Um, just did some endurance races because I never actually used to know what sprint was,
Hmm.
which was quite weird actually. As a kid, I didn't really know what sprinting was. I kind of just knew like the Tour de France, Laura
Yeah.
Kenny, Katie Archibald. I just knew that side of it. So yeah, I started to do some few races, started to do quite well in racing, and then got onto the GB Junior Academy. Um, as still endurance, still did track and road, and then yeah, kind of started to win some more races, I guess. And then obviously COVID happened, so I kind of based myself back at home in Carmarthen, and me and my dad just did training together, and then I got into the GB Senior Academy in 2021. Moved up to
Wow.
Manchester, and then yeah, so that's kind of long, but yeah, that's kind of quick insight to my like cycling background, I guess.
Yeah, and you said like you started in endurance. What made you actually change to sprinting then? Like, what was that catalyst for you going, sprinting's where I can make a difference? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I've been asked that quite a few times actually. So I guess more of an endurance racing, bunch races. I was the type of rider that would sit in. That I was the annoying rider that everyone hated because I'd sit in, I wouldn't really do much work, and then I'd sprint at the end and usually win it. So I was like, oh, like maybe I'm alright at this. And then at track nationals, I think I was an under 16 and I did both. Like I did Madison, but I also did sprint, and I won them both. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the junior academy coaches approached me. Matt Crampton, he's the sprint coach, and Monica Greenwood was the endurance coach. And she was like, oh, you should apply. And I was like, oh, okay. And then Matt Crampton was like, oh, you should apply for sprint because you have to kind of pick then. And I was
Mm.
like, what is sprint? And he was like, oh, it's like he was explaining it to me, like obviously you do a bit more gym and like it's more specific, like you do like Kieran sprint, team sprint. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think I applied for them both, and obviously you can't really get onto both. So then I got offered the sprint, and I actually hated it for the first
Really?
year, to be honest. Yeah. I I really struggled to like do gym, and I struggled to like not ride my bike as much, and which I really enjoyed. I love riding my bike on the road. I just loved riding my bike. So I struggled, and I actually was on a road team.
Mm.
So they allowed me to stay on the road team whilst kind of transferring to sprint. And then, yeah, after like obviously focusing in gym more, my endurance started to get worse. So I wasn't going as well in endurance races. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll actually give this a go. And
Mm.
I was just like, I'm just gonna do it. And yeah, like I'm glad I did.
Yeah. So was that difficult to make that sort of transition? Because like match sprinting is so like you end up with it's kind of tactical, kind of cagey at times, and likewise the Kieran has its so many different nuances to it that I
Yeah.
guess to lay people like myself, you don't see it, but I can imagine like being able to follow the journey or giving enough brush room for the to be able to launch off. And likewise with the time trial, which I have questions about as well, because of the changes. Like, yeah, did you find that transition easy or was it still a work in progress? I mean, you're only 20, like,
Yeah, I guess it is still a work in progress. Like you said, it is a lot more tactical. Like sprinting is it's not just as straightforward as I guess endurance is a little bit more.
mm,
That's what I see anyway. There is a lot more to it, like tactics, speed, power, like decision making is huge. And yeah, like still now I'm still learning. Like I've been doing this sprint. I think I've been doing sprint for about 3 years now, like properly.
mm,
Um, and yeah, I'm still learning. Like, and it's such a mind. Like, yeah, it's physically taxing, but also like mentally, you need to be mentally ready to go up to that line and make decisions really quickly and decide, is this enough room for me to leave? And observation, like there's so much more to it. And
mm,
yeah, it's really exciting in that aspect, but it's also quite challenging. And I'm still learning like every day what works for me, what doesn't work for me, and yeah,
yeah, yeah, because I can imagine it's quite difficult to make those decisions whilst kind of going along with a biggish gear at like 40k an hour,
yeah,
facing
exactly.
backwards, trying to watch what the opponent's doing. Like that doesn't sound easy to me.
No, it's not. And yeah, and sometimes you make the wrong decision, and yeah, it's just learning and accumulating like the race days and doing it and having that experience, which I'm like slowly gaining, but there's still so much I need to learn. But yeah, it is a bit.
Yeah, I guess that this interview came about because you did amazingly at the Worlds, and I was like, oh,
Thank you.
I've got to speak to her. Like first British women's match sprint gold since fellow Welsh woman Becky James.
Yeah.
Like, do you or when you won it, were you like, oh my God, that's quite monumental? There's been 10 years difference, or was it like, oh, it's just Wednesday, innit? Like, where do you fit
I
on that scale?
I actually, yeah, I was in literally disbelief. Like even in the video we watching, I was like, oh my god, because I was literally convinced Leah would be there or beating me. And yeah, it's kind of a relief when you cross the line. And I didn't actually know that it had been 10 years since Becky
Hmm.
James had obviously won sprint and she won Kieran in that same World Championships. And I honestly didn't know. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. And then obviously I had an interview with Chris Hoy and they told me and I was like, oh wow, like that is quite like a long time, and sprinting has changed so much in those 10 years, like a lot. And it's pretty cool that Becky was the last one to win it and now I've won it because she's obviously Welsh and I look up to her a lot. Like yeah, and her sister coached me, like helped me at the commie games. So
Oh
yeah,
wow.
it was pretty surreal when I found that out. I was like, oh wow, like this is, and then obviously Victoria Pendleton before that. So yeah, it's pretty cool to be, I guess, surrounded by those names. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, sprinting's changed a lot. It's kind of weird in that it's changed a lot, but hasn't. Like
Yeah,
Australia and Germany are still huge
yeah,
powers, and New Zealand are an emerging power, I feel.
yeah, true.
And you dispatch both Leah Sophie Friedrich in the final, but also Emma Hinze in the semi-final, and she's like she scares me with that glare she gives at the start. But like, yeah, it's like not just to beat one German, you beat two Germans on the way. Um, like to me that's a real mark of pedigree and true quality. Um, how did you feel though going into that when you knew the semi-final was against Emma, and then obviously similar when it was like, oh, okay, I'm in the final, it's Leah Sophie. Like, were you like, oh my God, I've got to beat them? Or was it like, okay, just do my job?
Yeah, obviously I've never been in that position before.
Hmm.
I guess at World Championships because I didn't do sprint and keirin last year. And yeah, to be honest, I was extremely nervous. I had to like go to the toilet between rounds and like sort myself out a bit because it's really like so much pressure on you and like internal pressure, external pressure. But me and my coach Carly had a plan. Like we knew I knew what I needed to do. I kind of raced like that throughout the competition anyway. And we tend to not think about our opponent in terms of tactics. Like I think about me because as soon as
Hmm.
I start thinking about them, it becomes they're more in control because obviously I don't know what they're going to do. So
Yeah.
I think about me and what I'm going to do against them. And yeah, when I went up to the line, like like Emma, she's won so much, and like I've raced her a few times actually, and yeah, she's so good. And like staring at me, I was like, oh my God. Like when they do that, it does make me nervous, but like I tried to just do my own thing. And then yeah, I kind of just took each race as it came. Like I didn't even think about the finals because I wasn't there. So I just needed to be like, I'm in the semi-finals against Emma. I just needed to do what I needed to do and literally give everything I could to the finish. And yeah, similar with Leah, to be honest. Like when I made that final, I was like, wow. Like I kind of like took a moment. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I like the at least I come away with this silver, which is still like, obviously I wanted to win, but against Leah, like she's so good as well. And I guess like similar approach. Like I was really, really nervous and I tried to like hold it together. But yeah, me and Carly had a plan, like similar to Emma. Like I knew we kind of like planned to my strengths. So
Hmm.
like I race to how I need to race to win. Like I don't really do much different because obviously throughout the championships you don't want to change much. And yeah, similarly to Leah, like I just rode to my strengths, did like my goals that I wanted to do, and it worked out. But
Hmm.
yeah, but behind the scenes, I don't know if many people saw, but because my coach was like, "Oh, you dealt with that well," and I was like, "Not my coach, like the coaching staff, like Carly
Yeah.
knew," but I was very, very nervous. Like, yeah, it was so scary, but yeah, and like it's the relief at the end that it's done. Like, yeah, it was just man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And it's kind of, yeah, I've noticed like it is kind of progression from like bronze at commies and then silver at Euros and now
Yeah.
gold and silver at Worlds. Like it feels like GB have made a huge amount of progress. Uh, like, was there a particular moment that made it click, or is it just natural progression?
I think Carly made a huge difference. So obviously
Hmm.
she became our coach at the start of last year, I believe. And I think just the way she approached training, the way she planned training was really good. Like we had a plan, like we knew exactly what we needed to do. The way she approached racing, I think was really, I think that's what kind of changed a lot for me, like helped me progress so quickly was the mentality towards racing. Like we'd have process goals instead of thinking about, I want to win, which we all
Hmm.
think is like how you're going to win and what you need to do to get there to the win, like to win. And like, I think that's what helped us as GB and especially me, like I really picked up on that quite quickly and I really like that style of how we approach racing and things. And yeah, and I think just as a team, like we grew together. There's so many girls on the GB program in sprint. There's about, I think at that time there was about 8 of us all like pushing each other. And I think that internal competition really helped as well. Like we were all like there wasn't a team like selected.
Hmm.
We were all trying to push to get into that team and like obviously you go better because you want to be in the team. So I think that really helped us as well. Um, yeah, I don't actually know what exactly like how we changed so quickly and how we progressed so quickly, but I think yeah, Carly played a huge factor. I think the girls back in Manchester training really hard was a huge factor, and just having like clear training and a clear plan and having those process skills, I think all of that like helped a lot. And yeah, it's just crazy how from last year to this year where we are as GB and pushing the Germans being so close, and it's really exciting. It is really exciting.
Yeah, and thinking about the future, you've got the UCI Track Champions League coming up.
Yeah,
Um, what can we expect from you? Like, and also, how are you finding it as a? 'Cause it's still relatively new.
yeah.
As a sort of format. Is it something that riders are generally enjoying, or is it something that you're like, oh, okay, I guess it works, but it's no World Cup, or how are you viewing it?
So I did it for the first time last year, and I
Hmm.
really, really enjoyed it. It was different. It was fast paced. And obviously it's in a weird time of the year because like I've coming back from off season, like I'm back into training now. I'm not at my peak form, which is
Hmm.
absolutely fine. But I really enjoyed it last year, but obviously I wasn't really I I didn't do that great, which is fine.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping this year I do progress a bit more into the competition, but like it's not I'm not going like obviously I'd love to win, but I'm going to keep accumulating like learning from racing and racing people like Gross and Kelsey and Emma and Leah if they do it. Like trying to gain experience racing them and also enjoy racing my bike. I feel like
Hmm.
next year is going to be a lot of pressure, like the World Cups, and every time I do get on the bike next year is going to be pressure. And I feel like the Track Champions League is a nice place to enjoy riding and learn new things and try new things. And yeah, I don't know what to expect, to be honest. I don't know where I'll be because I have just got back into training, so we'll see. But yeah, I'm excited to just get back on my bike because since Worlds I haven't actually ridden on my track bike yet. We've been doing a lot of
Oh,
like gym and road riding and road turbo, and so I get back on my track bike in October. So I think that's when it will hit like obviously I'd ride a new skin suit and things. So then I'll be like, oh, this is because I haven't forgotten about it at all, but it's like it hasn't been in my face because I haven't ridden track and stuff. So I
hmm.
think when I get back into competition and Champs League and stuff, I think I'll be like, oh, okay, I did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for like Track Champions League and then next year.
Do you think then, in the way that you're like, oh, you kind of forget that you're world champion almost. Like, do you think it does put a target on your back for others because they're like, I could get a real scalp here. I can say I beat the world champion.
Uh, I guess yeah. I'm not going to win everything.
Yeah.
And like you see that with previous world champions, they don't win everything, and I guess it's how you deal with that. And like obviously, I've never been in this position before, so it is new for me, and I am going to have to start dealing with internal pressure and pressure of wearing the world champion stripes and potentially being beaten. Like it probably will happen, and it's how I go about that. And yeah, I got a psychologist who I speak to, and like the Beast British cycling are really good. But yeah, and I'm just gonna have to see how that pans out. And I guess I just focus on me and not what's going on around me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I had a really good conversation with Beth Shriver. She the BMX world
Hmm.
champion, Olympic champion. She's one of my really good friends. So she's
All right.
obviously been there and she's worn the world stripes and she said it's not easy. And yeah, so like just speak to people around me who've done it. And I guess I'm just gonna go with the flow and see how it goes, but just yeah, make a plan for what if I get beaten or yeah, and how to approach that. But yeah, I guess I just don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like, in some ways, like if I was in that situation, I'd be like, I'd want to be beaten quite quickly because then it's like, well, that's happened now. I don't have to worry about what happens if I get beaten because it's happened. And
Yeah,
now I can focus on just racing again.
yeah, I guess yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, I guess Champions League will just see how it goes.
Yeah, and you kind of certainly I was getting the sense that it's more relaxed for you to do that. And it feels like there's a lot of camaraderie in sprint, like more so than certainly road can end up quite cliquey, I feel. So I'm like, but I see like from social media posts, like people are mixing and just like, like the Germans are super sociable and super good friends. Like, how do you find switching from, you know, being friends off the bike, to then having to race them and go, actually, I need to beat you and, make
Yeah.
things difficult, like, and give you no quarter at all when
Uh,
actually you're a mate.
yeah, it is difficult. So I'm actually really, really good friends with Pauline Grabosch,
Ooh.
the starter for the German team. I'm actually going on holiday with her tomorrow.
Oh, no way.
Um, yeah, we're going on like a training week in Italy. So yeah,
Wow.
but yeah, we're really good friends, and I've made so many friends. Like Matty Richardson, her boyfriend,
Mm.
I'm good friends with him. Emma and Leah, like I know them. There's so many people like Elise, because obviously you do it all the time. Like I met my boyfriend doing track racing, and yeah, like you meet so many people, and it is hard sometimes. Like in that final, that whole of team sprint day, I was racing Pauline like directly, and like you do find a switch, and you do like I was not friends with her on the track, and like we kind of mutually knew that, and I guess everyone in that room knew that like you had a job to do, and like you have to put a face on, and you have to ignore friendships and ignore everything, and like it is hard sometimes, but like if you want to win, that's what you've got to do, because there is no friends on the track, and if you start racing like you have friends, then you're going to lose. So
Mm.
yeah, it is an interesting one, but I've learned that when I'm on the track, like that's it. And like even racing teammates, like so me and her I've raced so much this year,
Oh,
like
yeah.
Cairo Nations Cup. Like she's like my teammate and a good friend, and it is difficult like when you're literally racing the person you train with. But you just got to like again focus on yourself and come back to you, and yeah, like I'm sure there'll be so many more in the future, like racing so many people, but it's like you just got to treat everyone the same, and like literally just yeah, focus on you and try to beat them.
Yeah, of course. Um, yeah, one thing I mentioned earlier that I said I'd bring up later, so I'll bring it up now because I've just remembered about it. There's going to be a change to the women's time trialing on the track.
Yeah,
It's going from the 500 to the kilo. Is
yeah.
that something you're looking forward to? With an endurance background, perhaps it suits you better, but perhaps I'm just putting words into your mouth. Maybe it doesn't. Like, yeah, how do you feel about it?
Um, I'm excited actually. So I wasn't really a 500 specialist. It's more for like the punchier riders, like the P1s, P2s. Like I am getting there, but like I'm a P3.
Mm.
I'm more of a I can keep going, like more sprint endurance. So when I heard about the 500 chain tequila, I was like, oh, like this could be an event for me. Obviously, it's absolutely savage. But yeah, I think maybe it would. I haven't actually done a proper kilo at an elite level, and like obviously I've done it as youth levels and things like that. But yeah, I think it'd suit me more than the 500. I'd say it's definitely going to be interesting how it plays out. Like our endurance rider's going to win it for the first couple of years, like it did
Mm.
in the men's kilo. Like are insurance riders going to enter it? Is it going to favour P3s? Is it going to favour sprinters? I don't know. It's exciting. Um, yeah, and I think it would be interesting. It is kind of sad that it's not as such of a. It is obviously a sprint event, but it is longer. So like the
Yeah, but
pure
also like
sprinters.
it's a weird one just because of the distance and the
Yeah,
relative time. Like because for the men it's about just over a minute, but I think for
yeah,
the women it will be like what, a minute 10, which changes.
yeah. Maybe a bit less, but yeah,
Yeah, but
it's
for me that
not
changes
really
the
a
profile very slightly from being pure. Like you can't sprint for that long. You
no.
could sprint maybe 45 seconds, I'd guess. I'm no
Yeah, even then
sport
you're
physiologist.
pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so it's not really.
yeah, exactly. It's not really a sprint event, and the longer duration that it's going to be, the more it goes away from being sprint event and more to
Yeah.
endurance. So, like, yeah, I guess, yeah, could it have been a 750? Um,
But then it takes away from the standard like
yeah.
kilo,
Oh,
which
yeah.
everyone like we've all said this internally. We're like, oh, it should be a 750. Like that would be so cool because but then it's like the kilo is so traditional and it's so like, and then the 5, it's kind of, yeah, it's a difficult one. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I guess it's changing. So yeah, we'll just see how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess one thing that people who aren't very au fait with track don't realize is that like every track has different profiles.
Yep.
Um, so is there a track that you favor? Because tracks are so, I guess, like from the one in Ghent, which I can't get the name right, so I won't say it, but like that's 167 meters. Like
Yeah.
for a sprint, I don't even know if they do sprints on there. I assume they do, but the
Yeah, but
corners
probably
are
not
so
full gas.
tight. Like
Yeah, I was gonna
it's
say probably not full.
no.
Uh,
Whereas like
yeah.
Euros were held in Guadeloupe once, and that's 333 meters and outside, and like
Yeah.
Hun Hill itself is like I want to say that's 450. Like,
Yeah,
and
I think
again, it's
so.
another outside track, so the banking's less severe and it's a lot longer. Um, so is there a track profile that you really like, or even just a track, and what makes it your favorite versus any others?
Yeah, definitely. I'm more of an indoor 250 standards kind of. I love those tracks. Obviously, I do like outdoor track racing, like been to Brno, Cottbus. They're really nice tracks. But I prefer indoor. I guess it's because I just know it and I
Hmm.
train on it every day. I'd say so. I say my favorite track in the UK is London, just
Ooh.
because I have really good memories on there. It's actually a really nice track. Um, I really like the shape of it. Obviously, I do love Manchester training, but yeah, London is really nice. And then in Europe, I'd say Paris
Oh,
is my
the
favorite.
San Quentin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, where yeah we raced obviously Worlds last year. I haven't actually done sprint and keirin on there, so that could change.
Yeah.
But yeah, Paris is really nice. Obviously, yeah, there's so many. Like I really like Glasgow just because I actually don't really like the track.
Ooh.
Um, I just have good memories there. So
Yeah.
it's so steep. Like it's I think it's I can't even remember, like maybe like 44 degrees, and Manchester I think it's 42.
Hmm.
So like obviously 2 degrees, but it is significant. Like the bankers are huge, and obviously that makes it's such a good for sprinting, but it is a hard track. But yeah, there's a few. Like I have a few favorites, but yeah.
Yeah. I guess this is completely off tangent, so not linked at all now, but there's a clip I've seen of you having to ride around with one foot on the pedal. Well, technically both feet on the pedals, but one actually still attached to the bike, the other just hanging off when you broke the crank. Like, what happened and how powerful do you have to be to break a crank off a bike?
Oh my god, that was a funny moment. Um, yeah, so we've I think aim for cranks, the cranks that I used were they are known to be a bit kind of a few faults, like the boys because they're so strong can break them. But not gonna lie, I didn't think I would. So I was on the rollers like warming up, and my crank was really loose, and I was like, "This is so weird." So and then it just came off. And I was like, "Right, okay." But I was literally racing, so I was like, "You like,
Hmm.
can you put it back on, please?" And like I was like, this doesn't feel right. So in the keirin, you like get pushed off and onto the bike. So I went really, really hard there just to like test it. Because I was like, I need to know if I can sprint on
Yeah,
this.
of course.
And it literally came out. And I was just riding around with this massive crank on my foot. And I was like, okay. Um yeah, yeah, it's just one of them things. Luckily I didn't crash or like I wasn't going full gas or like anything, but yeah, it was just got a lot of coverage on that because they found it hilarious. But yeah, it's just sometimes happens, things break, but yeah, it's just annoying rather than anything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because I'd just seen the sort of aftermath of it sort of just hanging off your foot and you having to
Yeah.
ride what I assume is a huge gear anyway, but a huge gear
Yeah, we
with
do
one
quite
foot,
big.
like that
Yeah,
doesn't look easy either.
gotta do it.
Yeah. So yeah, what's the future got in store? Obviously, track champ, tracks. I can't even say it.
Track
Uh,
Champs League.
that's the one. Yeah, let's call it that. And World Nations Cup or whatever they've called it nowadays. Just I call them World Cups because that's what I remember them as. I assume everything's built into the Olympics. Is that the general plan, or how are things shaping up for you?
Yeah, so obviously I've got a new coach now. Carly's left, which was pretty good.
Hmm.
She's now moved back to Australia. So we have a new coach, Scott Pollock. He'll be joining us in October. He actually coached the men before Tokyo.
Okay.
So that's quite exciting. He's obviously not the same as Carly, so he will have different plans. So obviously I have Track Champs League this side of Christmas. And that's about it for me for racing, I think. And then training, good block of training and before Christmas. Next year the Euros are 10th of January, Elite Euros in Appledorn. So I'm
Hmm.
not sure if we're doing them yet. And then the World Cups are in Australia and Adelaide, Hong Kong and Milton. So we'll be doing two of those. I think the first two, I believe.
Hmm.
And then maybe a bit of outdoor racing like last year and obviously Paris. So yeah, it's gonna come around really quick. And obviously selection, we have to get like selection has to happen. There's quite a few girls going like who wants to go to the Olympics and only three
Hmm.
girls can go. So yeah, there is gonna be a lot of I guess internal maybe not tension, but I don't know. I've never been part of an Olympic cycle, so I don't know how it's going to unfold. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll just keep working really hard, and yeah, but that's the ultimate goal is Paris next year.
Wow. So yeah, how can people keep up with you on socials? What, I'll put all these in the show notes, but yeah, just so people know where they can follow you and go, oh, that's what she's up to.
Yeah. So I have Instagram. My name is Emma Finucane underscore. Twitter Emma Finucane 123. I think. I'm on LinkedIn, Emma Finucane, if you
Ooh.
want to follow me there. I have TikTok, which I think is Emma Finucane underscore, I believe. I have to double
Hmm.
check. There's a few different platforms that I use. I am on Threads, but the main one I use is Instagram. That's where I post most of my reels and things. I do use TikTok and I'm starting to use LinkedIn. So yeah, want to follow me and follow my journey. But yeah, no, I'm really excited for next year for GB and I think it'll be really good.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was really nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, there you go. That was the amazing Emma. She truly is incredible, isn't she? Um, Check her out at the upcoming Track Champions League. I believe it's on GCN Plus, so definitely give her a watch. And now you know a bit about the rider, as well as being able to see the person. Um, Although I probably should have said them the other way. You know about her now, and yeah, just hope she does well in the upcoming races.